Welcome to Peaceful Life Radio, your companion for navigating the second half of life with wisdom, intention, and grace. We're Don Drew and David Lowry. We're here to help you embrace your wisdom years with confidence and purpose. Now that the busy seasons of career, family, and fulfilling others' expectations are behind you, it's time to focus on what truly matters, your personal growth, relationships, and legacy. The best chapters of life are still ahead, so let's dive in.
I still remember day one of that cruise, walking out onto deck in the morning and seeing nothing but the blue ocean and blue sky. And it just stuck with me and it was mesmerizing. And that just made me fall in love with being on the ocean. And from there, of course, cruising itself on different ships and different experiences all kind of coalesces to create what I think is one of the most perfect holidays that anyone can choose to do.
Welcome to Peaceful Life Radio. That was Adrian Tossone, better known as the Cruise and Travel Guy. And Don, I am really excited about Adrian being on the program today. Hey, everybody, I'm David Lowry, and my good buddy Don Drew is with us today. Don, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, David, and I'm really excited to have Adrian Tossone with us today. He's made it his mission to help people see the world from the deck of a ship. He's traveled over 30 cruises, sharing honest advice, insider tips, and contagious enthusiasm along the way. Adrian has a special knack for helping travelers find cruises that match their interests, comfort level, and sense of adventure. Whether it's uncovering hidden gems on board or guiding first-timers through the planning process, he makes cruising easy, fun, and within reach for everyone. Adrian, welcome to Peaceful Life Radio.
Thank you so much for having me, both of you. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
I might also mention that Adrian is with us from Australia. It's about a day later there. And I want to ask you, how's the next day going so far?
Yes, I'm speaking to you from the future, and it's actually quite nice. It's a little bit sunny this morning, so we're happy here with the weather, and I think things are looking good for the next day, so gear up for that.
Well, great. I was wondering if I should get out of bed tomorrow or not, but you're giving me hope.
Great. Hey, Adrian, how did you first fall in love with cruising? What's your own cruise story?
Mine actually goes right back to childhood, and it was a family holiday at the age of 11 for me. And it was sort of a chance thing, actually. We weren't even supposed to go on this cruise. Had another trip planned. And it turned out that it ended up being something that would define my life, which is quite funny to think of at age 11. But we ended up falling in love with it. I still remember day one of that cruise, or the day after we left, walking out onto deck in the morning and seeing nothing but the blue ocean and blue sky. And it just stuck with me. And it was mesmerizing. And that just made me fall in love with being on the ocean. And from there, of course, cruising itself on different ships and different experiences all kind of coalesces to create what I think is one of the most perfect holidays that anyone can choose to do.
Adrian, isn't it amazing how at a very early age we can become infatuated with something that takes us on a journey for the rest of our life? And you're an expert on this. And by the way, people, you should go look him up on YouTube. You can spend hours looking at wonderful videos he's put together about the cruising life. But why do you think cruising holds such a special appeal for people like us in the second half of life?
Thank you very much for the shout out for the YouTube channel. I find that cruising is one of the easiest ways to travel. It is convenient, but more than that, it provides people with the opportunity to see places that they may not have been able to throughout their lives. And it does so in a way that you can completely melt into the experience on day one. We're talking about your hotel that comes with you, gives you an opportunity to see places that you might only want to have a taste of, and maybe you'll figure out that you'd like to go back again. You can tick off some major bucket list destinations. You can see a number of places in one go. And ultimately, there is so much variety at play in the cruise industry that anyone can find the trip that is best suited to them. And that's truly where research does come into it, because I have spoken with people that have cruised once and didn't like it, but realized that they chose the wrong cruise. And for whatever reason, they maybe ended up on something that was not geared to their tastes, or perhaps the itinerary wasn't quite in line with what they were hoping to see and explore. And I think that's truly one of the keys about cruising, is that you need to be sure of what you're booking to make sure that you get the experience that is best for your desired outcome.
I know that a lot of my friends here in the United States, when they think of cruising, they think of either an Alaska or a Caribbean cruise. It seems like those are the two choices that you have, but you really have a lot of other choices, don't you?
It's almost limitless. I mean, we are seeing currently an explosion in expedition cruising. These are destinations on the planet that really are only accessible by ship. So we're talking about going as far south as Antarctica, the Arctic Circle, the Kimberley in Australia, which I cruised a couple of years back, which is phenomenal. So you're seeing places that are inaccessible through the comfort and luxuries of a cruise experience. When we speak of expedition cruising, it might bring up images of scaling cliffs and doing these sorts of things, but it's really about seeing places that in Australia, for example, in the Kimberley, where the tides are some of the biggest in the world, they shift 11 meters over the course of one day. It's a huge, huge change in tide level. And that's something to witness in person, and all of the other things that come with that, like horizontal waterfalls, reefs that appear from the middle of the ocean that look like rising islands. These sorts of experiences we can have through cruising. But beyond expeditions, people going to see Europe, the Mediterranean, you can explore so many destinations in one hit that you really get to taste a country and explore as much as you like, always knowing that you can go back to your ship at the end of the day and relax and enjoy a drink and some food and then do it all again the next day.
We talked about ocean cruises, river cruises, expedition cruises. A friend of mine is really into river cruising. How might somebody go through a process of discovering what they want to do first?
Destination is the key. If you're interested in seeing Australia, we've got some incredible cruises that go around the entire continent, circumnavigation over the course of 4 weeks. But it really does come down to that destination first, focus, and then working backwards from there.
I'm glad that you mentioned there's so many choices to choose from. What kind of experiences would you recommend for people in the second half of life who may not be as energetic and strong as they once were, maybe not out there for the bungee jumping or something like that? What would you recommend?
Well, I think the beauty of cruising, and one thing that I love about it so much, is that it's a choose your own adventure experience. If you're not as adventurous, if you do want to take things a little bit more slowly and easily, you can completely do that. We cruised around Japan in 2024, as an example, and that cruise was one of my favorites. We got to experience different cities, a different culture, the food, and we did a lot of that by ourselves. So, for example, we would arrive in port and set off on foot. We would go for a walk. We would explore neighborhoods. And that was truly the experience that you're talking about, where we didn't do anything adventurous. We didn't go jumping off cliffs or paragliding, but we did get to see and experience a brand new culture for us. And in the ease, and I have to really highlight that word, in the ease of that cruise environment, it's almost an unmatched experience because you just get to do your own thing.
You've been talking about some of your experiences, and maybe we can hear more about those, but have you had anybody share a story with you about something that occurred during a cruise that was unexpected or life-changing for them?
Life-changing. I think one of the things I've heard a lot from people is that they meet other people. And I know that might sound funny, but cruising can be very social as an experience. It doesn't have to be, but I've heard of people meeting lifelong friends on a cruise. It's one of those environments where, pardon the pun, everyone's in the same boat. You're already in a good mood. People are on holidays, and a real opportunity for people to make new connections and meet other people that have a similar view of life and maybe at a similar stage of life. I've made many friends that I'm still connected with. It's really a nice addition to meet people that you really gravitate towards and enjoy their time and your time together.
I'd like for you to paint a picture of what you think a perfect cruising day or a day at sea would be like.
Yeah, Sea Day is one of those perfect opportunities. It's a blank canvas. On some cruises, you can really enjoy different activities. They'll do dance classes, fitness classes, cooking demonstrations. For me personally, I love an easy morning. I go for a walk along the deck. I get up quite early, as I like to go out and enjoy the morning air. The fresh air on a cruise is nothing quite like it. So I do a couple of laps of the deck, have a bit of a light breakfast, and then take it easy. Read a book on a deck chair, Later in the day, it's really nice to spend some time at a bar. For me, I enjoy having a drink or two. That's where you can meet some people as well. And then getting ready for dinner later in the evening, get ready for your night out and finish up the day with a show in the theater or live music in one of the lounges, and then retire to bed whenever you're ready. So it's a very easy breezy kind of thing, but it can be as easy as you want it to be. If you like, family cruising and multi-generational family cruising is one of the best holidays that you can do together. My own family is cruising with Princess Cruises. We are doing a fairly lengthy one. It's almost 2 weeks, but each of us gets to do our own thing. The kids get to be in kids club. We have a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old. So we know that they're going to be looked after and well catered for in the kids clubs on board, which are complimentary or included in your fare. So you don't have to pay anything extra for that. I know that my brother and sister-in-law will be able to relax because their kids are looked after. They can let their hair down and enjoy their time together. And we all come together at the end of the day to have our family dinner and enjoy our company like that. So for anyone looking to do a similar experience, I would suggest trying to pick a cruise line that will cater well to all ages. And Princess do a very good job with that. If you're looking for something that's about a week and under, from the US, perhaps you're looking at a cruise from Mexico on the West Coast to the Mexican Riviera, or perhaps something from the Caribbean. I think that they're probably the best sort of starter options for a family or group reunion trip. I think they're really, really good ways to do it at a decent length of time, but not too long so that you do your family thing and then move on.
I'm intrigued by the fact that you have been on so many cruises yourself and make your living working with people and making travel plans and so on. It sounds like a wonderful way to spend your life. What are one or two of your favorite cruises and why?
I recently got back from Alaska, and I know you actually mentioned that at the top of the show as well. Alaska is just one of those places that is incredible for cruising specifically. It is one of my favorites. I've cruised there twice. The first time was 10 years ago, and I went back again, this time with my partner and my parents. My parents are in their 60s, and for them, it was a really great opportunity to see another part of the world that I had really framed to them as being an excellent opportunity to see a landscape that is so different to what we see in Australia, and to see mountains and glaciers and forests and icebergs. These are things that we do not see in Australia. So for us, it was very fun to have those experiences and to be able to show my parents a part of the world that they hadn't seen. And I did talk it up before we went. And it's always a risk when you do that because people then have a very high expectation, but we're blown away still, even after I talked it up a bit. So Alaska is definitely one of those places that is truly designed for cruising because so much of it is inaccessible otherwise. And that cruise experience was an ultra luxury cruise that we did. So it was very different to the Carnival cruises in the Caribbean or even the NCL Norwegian cruise line voyages in Alaska. Very intimate, smaller number of guests, all inclusive. And that sort of goes to speak about the options that exist in the cruise industry, how you can really tailor the experience to what you want to get out of it. And sometimes that sort of environment is exactly what you want. And it was very nice.
I have never heard of anyone who didn't love the Alaskan cruise. And I have met lots of people who've taken it. And I feel like I'm probably the only person left in America that hasn't done it. I need to do this. I'm feeling FOMO, if you know what I mean. Fear of missing out. Adrian, so much has changed in the cruising industry, and I don't know if this is fair or not, but I'd like to stack it like this: good, better, best. There's something for everybody. You don't have to be extremely wealthy to go to cruising these days, but there's different levels of comfort and so forth. So why don't you lay out a good, better, best type of cruises?
Good, better, best is actually a really good way to break down the cruise industry because there are different experiences, ships, and cruise lines that will cater to each of those levels. In the good sense, we have the solid contenders. So we have a Carnival cruise or we have a Royal Caribbean cruise. These are mass market design ships that appeal to a wide variety of people, multi-generational cruises, people that like to cruise together. They cater to a good entry point where you get to experience places and all of the attractions on board a ship that, generally speaking, are very modern and offer a whole lot of facilities. Moving up from there into the better area, we have Princess Cruises, Holland America, Celebrity Cruises. These are larger cruise ships that carry a larger number of people, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 plus. They're designed in a way that is more mature. They have more of an adult focus, less of a kid-friendly attraction approach. They focus a little bit more on destinations, the cuisine, live music, and theatrical shows. Then going into the best territory, we have Regent Seven Seas, which I just did in cruise lines like Azamara, cruise lines like Silversea. These are lines that's focused on a smaller number of people on their ships, tend to be smaller ships for that reason. They don't really have attractions like the theme park, like the Royal Caribbeans and carnivals, but they cater to an elevated level of service and inclusion that can definitely be a much more pleasant way to travel. So if you're looking for something more luxurious, they certainly exist. But there's options for every type of traveler.
And then there's options within those options as well, I guess. I would assume you get better staterooms and so on. You can always work your price point based on what you're willing to settle for or what you want. And there is some variety within that, correct?
Absolutely. You can definitely choose within those experiences. Many cruise lines actually now offer suite class. So if you're on a mass market line like Royal Caribbean, you can opt for a suite where you have access to your own private restaurant, your own private deck, your own private venues. You have what they call a ship within a ship concept across many cruise lines these days. And some of those, by the way, can cost more than ultra luxury cruise lines. So sometimes you think that these mass market lines can offer good value, and they do. But depending on the stateroom you choose or suite you choose, it can sometimes be better just to go straight to the top and have the full experience.
Adrian, when a ship pulls into port and people are wanting to leave the ship and see the local area and so forth, what does that day look like? How do they exit the ship? How do they sign up for tours and get back on the boat and all? What does that process look like?
When a cruise ship pulls into port, it usually happens in the morning, most typically. And you'll find that within about an hour of that, which might be as early as 6 a.m., 7 a.m., within about an hour, the ship is usually cleared for people to disembark. At that point, anyone can walk off the ship as you would walk out of a hotel. The only thing you need to bring with you really is some currency and your identification and your cruise card, which is essentially your pass that lets you back on and off the ship. And it acts as your room key as well when you're on board the ship. Once you're off, you can do whatever you like. You can head to a restaurant. You can head to a bar. You can try and find a tour. There are many tour operators that operate right on the dock. They'll set up stalls or kiosks so people can disembark and book something on the spot if they haven't made plans. The other option that a lot of people do for the convenience and the safety aspect, which I'll come back to in a moment, is book a cruise line shore excursion. You book that through your cruise line, and you can do that well before your cruise. You can do it online after you've made the reservation months ahead of time, or you can do it on board the ship as well. The reason that I mentioned the safety aspect is that cruise line shore excursions are guaranteed to return you to the ship before its departure time. So if there does happen to ever be some sort of an instance where the cruise line tour that you're on has some sort of an issue or delay, traffic perhaps, the cruise line is responsible to return you to the ship, and that is not of your concern. If you make private arrangements and you miss the ship's departure time, then there is no guarantee that they will wait for you. So it's my suggestion that depending on the port, the time of day that you're looking to do something, you might look at doing a cruise line shore excursion over and above private arrangements. It's something that I've always kept in mind in ports where I feel unfamiliar with the port or unfamiliar with the language or the culture. I feel safer booking something through the cruise line. But in many places, I do my own thing and there's no issue. You just need to be mindful of that timing. That's all. Once you return back to the ship, you just walk back on. You scan your cruise card, you go through a security procedure where they have a metal detector. They scan your baggage to make sure that nothing has been snuck on board. So security is very important on the cruise ships, and they do a fantastic job with that. And that's it. The ship departs and you get to enjoy a sail away with your cocktail and the views of sunset from the deck, which is perfect.
I know that cruise lines have evolved a lot in recent years. Can you think of some of the ways that they're making life easier and more enjoyable for older travelers who may have health concerns and challenges?
Cruise lines are very good with dealing with people that require special attention or care. As far as accessibility goes, cruise ships these days are especially designed to cater for all sorts of accessibility requirements, and they're built on that level where people can use wheelchairs, scooters, or any other sort of mobility device that they need. Cabins are designed in that way as well. If there are people with accessibility needs, accessible cabins can be booked. Now, it's worth noting that these typically are fewer in number. So if you do have those requirements, pre-planning as much as possible is your best friend. You really do need to work with a good travel agent or directly with the cruise line and explain your requirements, because they'll be able to lock those in for you, but they do go quickly. And there you'll find accessible bathrooms, wider doorways, and all of those sorts of things. As far as other health things go, cruise lines are really good at working with people if they need to bring on special medications or anything of that nature as well. Those things do need to be prearranged. And of course, on board each ship, you'll find full medical teams, doctors, and the like. So they are well equipped to deal with people that might have unexpected issues occur. And to that note, travel insurance is always a must. Please, everyone, if you're booking any sort of travel cruise, especially once you're on a cruise ship, you are subjected to their costs. So travel insurance, everyone.
If you're a person that's a little nervous about getting on a ship, wondering, will I be seasick the whole time? I've never done this before. Or what if I don't like it or something like that? Anything to calm those jitters?
I think you do need to be a little bit of an intrepid traveler. You do need to have a bit of a sense of go with the flow, and that's part of it. Doing your research just to make sure that you're across what you will be experiencing once you're on board. But I think as a good start, a shorter cruise can be a good option for people to get a taste of it. It does potentially come with the downside, which is that on a shorter cruise, you can find, depending on the departure port or the time of year or even the cruise line, that it can be a little bit more party focused once on board. Sometimes on short cruises, you'll find people celebrating birthdays or other events. The full experience of a cruise that is going to be longer with people that are there more for the travel aspect. So it's a good way to get a taste, but you still then need to keep in mind that it might not be giving you the full picture of what cruising can be like. So I say go in with open eye, do your research. As far as things like seasickness goes, there are so many medications these days that can really help quell that, but ships today are quite stable. They don't move like you might expect a boat to move. If you've been on smaller boats and not a ship, they don't move in the same way. I've known many people that can get seasick on a smaller boat, but once on a cruise ship, they don't feel it in the same way at all. So don't be too fearful of the seasickness aspects, and speak to a pharmacist before you go and equip yourself with some medication, because it can be very easy to deal with.
Adrian, let's say David and I and our wives come to you and say, hey, we really want to take a cruise. Talk us through how you would help us figure out what kind of cruise we want to take. You talked about knowing the destination. Of course, that's important. But what are some of the other things that you would want to extract from us so that you could give us the best advice on what we might want to do?
That's a great question. I think knowing and understanding what sort of travelers you are is a big part of that pie, or a big piece of that puzzle. You want to make sure that the itinerary is in keeping with your goals. So if you came to me and said that we wanted to explore the Mediterranean, so we knew that, I would then try and narrow it down in terms of where you wanted to see and how long you wanted to spend in each port. Because what you'll find is that some of the larger cruise ships don't sail or dock close to major cities, whereas some of the smaller ones do and can. So you have much more accessibility to places with the limited time that cruises do provide. There are also other cruise lines that give you overnight stays in some ports. Another consideration would be your preferences for the environment on board. When we're talking about cruise ships, as I mentioned earlier, some really cater towards families, and they'll have a larger number of children on board and attractions that cater to them. If you're not interested in that sort of environment, then I would not recommend certain ships. If you wanted a more adult environment, then I know exactly what I would recommend. So there are a number of things to consider. And that all goes back to what I said earlier, that people can choose the wrong cruise experience and then think that they don't like cruising. And I truly believe that there is no such thing as someone who doesn't like cruising. I think they've just done the wrong cruise.
When you explore cities and areas via a cruise, it's a different sort of a thing than when you fly or take a train or something like that. What destinations do you think really come alive when you experience them by a cruise?
I sort of have to go back to the Mediterranean again. There's something about sailing between those ports and experiencing these cities in a way that is almost a taster, because you're there maybe for 8 to 12 hours, but you really get to experience a number of places in a row, and they're quite busy. And for me, it's one of my favorite ones because you do get that sense of exploration. And I love it. I think it's such a great way to do the Med.
What's ahead for you, and how can listeners gain from following you?
I'm off to Florida in a week or 2 weeks to sail on a brand new ship for Princess Cruises on her inaugural voyage. And I will be at the naming ceremony as well. So it should be very exciting. After that, I have a family cruise with my parents and brother's family. So we'll have 3 generations. This is one of the most perfect family holidays that anyone can do. We get to go and enjoy our own thing together and then come back at the end of the day and have our nice family dinner. So I'm looking forward to that one. And I'm always looking for the next cruise experience. So I tend not to plan too far in advance because there's usually something coming up in the not too distant future. And if people are looking to learn a lot more about cruising and follow me, just head to the Cruise and Travel Guy on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I have plenty of information. YouTube is my treasure trove of videos where I make a lot of content that is helpful and full of information. So I hope that you can check that out. You'll find pretty much all of my past cruises there. So you can see my detailed reviews of places like Japan and Alaska and the Kimberley in Australia if you're looking for something more expedition oriented. So yeah, you can learn a whole lot more about cruising on those venues and social media platforms.
Adrian, thank you so much for joining us today. You've painted a wonderful picture of what cruising can be, not just a vacation, but a chance to slow down, see the world, and connect with people and places in a deeper way. For listeners who want to learn more, you can find Adrian at thecruiseandtravelguy.com or follow him on social media for tips, reviews, and a bit of travel inspiration. And if you've ever dreamed about being on a cruise but haven't quite taken the plunge, maybe this is your sign. Adrian Tossone, thanks for joining us on Peaceful Life Radio.
Thank you both so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure to chat with you, all things cruising.
That's it for today's episode of Peaceful Life Radio. We hope you found inspiration and insights to help you live with purpose and fulfillment. If you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who could use encouragement. The best chapters of your life are still ahead. Until next time, this is David Lowry and Don Drew, encouraging you to age intentionally with peace, purpose, and joy.